This is the history of flow.
History of flow and reef tanks.
All right.
Brought to you in part by... What's up, YouTube?
Beer and TV. All right, what's up, YouTube? All right, well, it's like a flow, man. Flow day.
It is a flow day. We got all of the good stuff here and the history behind the flow in your tanks. Well, as you know it anyway.
I don't know, as I know it, yeah. I don't know, as my experience through my eyes. I gotta tell you, when I did this, I went back to 2004, and this is one of the areas where I realized how really far behind we were in 2004.
Yeah, just 16 years ago.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It was really, really terrible back then. All right, so that's what you're gonna learn. You're gonna see today, you're gonna see 2004 to 2025, going to the future even a little bit.
Oh yeah.
In hopes of figuring out, you know, where we're gonna go by reviewing what we've done in the past.
A retrospective.
Yeah, so let's understand all that stuff so that we can move forward. All right, so in there, you know, I mean, the story here is like several $1 million ideas in here. If anybody wants to become a millionaire,
this is great.
You should watch the very end of this, apparently, because they keep
There's
spitting out.
gems. Yeah.
I don't know.
I bet the wheels are turning in a lot.
You don't like your job, you want to be in reefing, or you're already in reefing and you just want to make more money, I guess. Solve reefers' problems, they will pay you.
Yes, they will.
There you go. I will pay you. I'll write a check for myself because I want one if you can create these things. All right, so 2004. Do you know what we were using for flow in 2004? We don't even have one here.
Sort of like that, but not really.
No.
Not even that.
It was called MaxiJet.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, is it this thing?
The Marineland MaxiJet?
No, this is,
that's
a little different one. Yeah, I don't know. So does anybody raise your hand if you use a MaxiJet for flow in a large reef tank? Because I did.
And it didn't have like a propeller pump cover or anything like that.
That's the important factor here. No, you got to go way back, dinosaur age. Like, you did not have a boat prop on it. It was just a little impeller squirting out of a hole the size of a pencil. Yep. All right. So I don't know. That's like what we had for flow back in 2004 for the most part, like affordable flow. We'll get into like if you money's no object, what it was there later. But yeah, I don't know. I think a vast majority of people had MaxiJets and by Marineland at the time. And
that sort of was the evolution of you, right?
Yeah, you'll see that a little bit later. Yeah, I don't know. And the goal was about 10x. So if you had a 100-gallon tank, have 1,000 gallons an hour of flow.
Which now we have single pumps that can go like quadruple that. Like
the Neptune,
the Neptune Apex one is 4,000.
Oh yeah.
The MP10 is 1,500.
This little pump here could have been, you know what, like 20 MaxiJets. Yeah. So I don't know. Very interesting. It really though, I gotta be honest. I mean, the more you really dive into these numbers that we all pass around, the 10x, 50x, 100x, 2.3x. It's all just kind of like, where did that come from and why?
That's the main question that comes to mind is, who came up with that?
Yeah, I don't know the answer, who came up with that. It sounded like a nice round number.
There you go.
10, I don't know. Also, like at the time, it was affordable.
10x
so,
was affordable.
If I said 20, it wouldn't have been affordable. I'd have 10 of these MaxiJets in my tank.
Yeah.
So it just wouldn't make any sense. So I don't know where that stuff comes from, but probably not from logic, to be honest. And wave makers are super popular at this point, right?
Oh.
So like on-off style wave makers, you can buy all kinds of them.
Yeah. So, and can you time them at the time though? Can you like program them?
You know, a lot of them are like set for like, 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off, 5 seconds on, 5 seconds off, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
There's even outlets and stuff for it, which you would learn, like later learn, that like is garbage because you can't create an actual current in the tank of any real flow magnitude. If you turn the pump on inside of 5 seconds, it hasn't even really started to move water hardly at all.
Yeah.
Especially a MaxiJet. So I don't know. It felt good though. On and off, whatever.
I bet there was people in the forums that were like just using regular timer, timers for your Christmas lights or what have you.
Yep.
And was trying to replicate the same thing.
You can get longer flow rates. But one of the things that like a friend of mine told me later on, and you just don't think about this, is so I got 10x flow, right? But I put them on a wave maker. I immediately have 5. because half of them are off at
any given moment. That makes sense.
I immediately cut it in half. So there you go. We also, super duper popular at the time was high door rotating deflectors. You remember those things?
Yeah, I do, and I think some of them are still around. In sort of like, does it the one that uses the flow, the push of the water to actually swirl itself?
So they work on a lot of different things. You could put them on like closed loops. You could put them on all kinds of different stuff. They had a different adapter on it.
Like a plumbing fit, it would fit on piping though.
Yeah, but it had an adapter for a maxi jet output. So you could take this little round guy and it would use the flow and some gears to like spin around, and it would kind of like scoop, aim the water in different directions as it spun around. It would clog now and then, and they were like $15, and you just had to replace them.
Yeah.
It was a way to like not blast your corals. Now that I'd say blast with my maxi jet, it's kind of hard to really do to begin with. But yeah, in fact, actually, it's funny because I started the tank the first time, and maxi jets come with like the air tube, on it.
Like you can attach an air.
Yeah, and I didn't know better, man. As I put the air tube on there, and I like took a picture of this, and I'm like, this doesn't look right. They're like, yeah, because you don't use the air tube, dummy. And I'm like, I don't know. Like you see it in freshwater and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. You got to expose your faults. Here I am. Yeah, we learn real quick. And so also the pros at the time are using things called, if you're big bucks, tunes streams.
Tune streams.
Yeah, so they were like the nano streams you have now with the big guys.
Yeah.
And they were just really big. And I don't remember exactly what they cost, but in my mind they were unobtainable.
That was the boat prop technology though. So you knew what is possible out there, but it was not affordable.
Yeah, if you were Daddy Warbucks, you could get these like $400. I'm making up the price because I don't remember what they were, but they were a lot. And it had a boat prop in it, and you could have the 3,000 gallons an hour flow instead of 240. But no, partially because nobody really wanted to afford it at the time.
Yeah.
But everybody's kind of like, why? My maxi jets are working just fine.
And I can get a bunch of them for the same price.
I don't know. I'm going to tell you right now, this goes across like actually a lot of different things here.
Yeah.
Is the Germans just seem to be years ahead of us.
Balling method, we found that out.
The balling method,
just a bunch of things.
So here's the thing: this is why I think this is. And I hate to say this out loud, but I'm just going to say it anyway. I think it's the mentality of perfection that Germans have.
Yeah.
It's just like it's never good enough. Always trying to perfect, always make it better. The good enough mentality just doesn't exist in the German DNA.
Yeah.
Somebody scrubbed it out of the DNA, picked it out, threw it out.
Not there anymore.
And I don't know, man, it's just not there. And so that constant drive produces a different level of success. They also, for whatever reason, aren't as cautious. So there isn't as much fear of snake oil and stuff. They just tend to trust each other.
Yeah.
I don't know. So it's a different kind of thing. And I think trust and honesty and a drive to improve does produce a different level of success in anything. Actually, now you say it out loud.
Yeah.
I don't know. So anyway, there's pride in the products they produce rather than a focus on ROI too. You see a lot of American-made products, and the whole focus is how do I make this cheap enough that somebody will buy it?
Yeah, make more money from it.
Yeah, watch how they ruined UV sterilizers. They it wasn't I wanted to solve your problem in your tank. I wanted to sell UV sterilizers, so I made it small and cost $60. Doesn't work worth a crap, but now I'm able to sell one where I wouldn't sell the big one.
Yeah.
Terrible idea. Yeah, I don't know. So I will tell you the German stuff ends up costing a lot of money, so they don't really focus on the ROI at the end. They just take the huge price tag on to make it work. All right, for the elite group, for the guys, man, that are really, really, really into this, they're into closed loops. Reflow pumps like the darts and stuff like that are super duper popular. So you'd have a closed loop, meaning you're sucking water out of the tank and then pumping it back in. An amazing 2,400 gallons an hour or something, or 4,000 gallons an hour from your dart. Except for that's 4,000 gallons. And then but the dart was this big.
Wasn't there a plumbing box or something? I had one of these, and I don't know where I picked it up from, but it was a box that had 4 inputs or outputs. You could use it however. But when you would use it on a closed loop, you plumb it into a closed loop, and it would switch which way the flow came out.
I don't remember what the thing was called, actually.
Somebody will comment. You know what I'm talking about.
It had different fittings in it, and it would spin around, and it would send water out different pipes as it spun around, and you could reconfigure it. And I don't know what it was called.
Yeah. Somebody will.
Yeah, I'm sure somebody will bring it up.
Greg Carroll knows.
Is Greg out there?
Yeah, he's on.
Okay, Greg, your challenge is on, man. What was that thing called? All right, but this was the Elite Reefers. And part of the cool part about it too, though, is when you use the closed loop, there's no wires in your tank. You can get water flow underneath the tanks. You can put bulkheads in the bottom of the tank and have flow going up and sideways underneath the rock. Yeah. Really opened up the opportunities. But you had giant pumps, more leak opportunities, a bunch of other stuff.
But you could see or you could hide like the outputs, so you could build it up around rock. So you actually don't see 10 maxi jets in your display.
I've seen a lot of tanks like that. A friend of mine locally had one. You know, he had a big tank put in his bar, and then he had all the closed loops underneath, so he could flush out all of the stuff that would normally collect under your rock. And he had that down there. So, totally different approach to it. And at the time, the flow coming from your return pump is calculated as part of your 10x.
Yeah.
Now you got like all these fancy, return lines and stuff, and you're trying to like randomize it because like the flow coming out of your return pump is somehow going to be the primary flow.
I've got a Mag Drive 19, and that's 1,900 gallons per hour, so I got to add that into my 10 times flow. I only need 3 maxi jets.
Yes, that's true. Or not, I guess.
It's the Ocean Motion.
Yeah, Ocean Motion. Who did it? Was it from Greg or did somebody else
say
it?
No, that was Brian.
Oh, there we go. Brian, bravo.
Oh, Scott said it first, though.
Scott. All right, Ocean Motion.
There you go, Scott.
That's what
Ocean
it was.
Motion had one of those.
Yeah. I forgot about that. What I remember about them is they jammed, though.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you have a moving part in plumbing, and then you have constant pressure on it. It was
Saltwater. I just remember them jamming all the time. But okay, so flow is calculated return. Now, I won't say this is an overarching term for everyone, but a vast majority of us don't calculate flow from a return because pumping water through a sump back up is the least efficient possible way to create flow in your tank. Also the loudest, and the only reason for the return pump is to keep the filtration and life support connected to the tank. Yeah. So we don't do that anymore. But 2004, this was the shortest 2004 of all the things that we've done, because I don't think flow was really that big of a topic back then.
No, I don't think so.
I mean, I would be curious if other people out there who've been around this long felt like flow was a really big topic back 16 years ago, because I don't remember it being that big of a topic. And certainly, like, it's, like, times change. You see all these people, like, everybody thought the Tunses were a waste of money. You don't need that and all this other garbage. But once it became affordable, all of a sudden you did need it.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's kind of a different thing. All right. So now we're going to fast forward a little bit, and we're going to compact like 10 years of flow into 2004 to 2015. All right.
Where'd we come in a decade?
So we don't have a picture of this. I should have got one picture of this at least. But some of you may remember the MaxiJet mod project. So way back in the day.
Was this you or was this before you?
Before me. Yeah. So I just put a kit together. I didn't invent this project.
Okay.
And so somebody out there had this brilliant idea. Basically you look at a tuned stream and it's just a motor on the end with a rod and a boat prop on the front. Why is this thing $400? Right. I don't know. I mean, granted, they're like importing it and all this other stuff, but then the MaxiJet thing here, just had this other impeller on it, and the motor. I remember these things being like $25. I don't remember exactly what they were. Yeah. But what the guy did was pop out the impeller here, and it just had a normal impeller, not a prop on it. Right. And he popped it out and then dug all the stuff out of the inside of it then got a carbon fiber rod to run up the middle of it, then a plastic tube, hard rigid airline tube to shove inside of it, and then some other end points on it, and then a plumbing fitting, and then glued another piece of end on it, and he made a tuned stream out of a MaxiJet. Right, and so for a handful of parts, you know, he created, I changed a 200 gallon an hour flow pump into 2,000.
So he wasn't making kits for it. He was just sharing how to make it on your own if you want.
Yeah, there
to
was
do it
like
yourself.
a pretty long thread on like how to do this.
Yeah,
this is right up my alley, right? So right up my alley to figure out and go do this. I just love these.
And make it available to everybody.
Yeah. Well, and so I went and did it.
Yeah.
And then I put it on my tank, and I'm like,
whoa.
Okay, tank just starts thriving immediately. You can see all the gunk is flushed up and removed by the filtration. The corals are just doing better than ever. And you'll hear later why that would obviously be, but I didn't know it. I think a lot of us didn't know it at the time.
Yeah.
But like the tank is doing so good. But you know, here's the problem. Is that project was actually a giant pain in the ass.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there was like, it was still kind of loose. Like it was, here's a list of stuff, you could do it this way, you could do it that way. And like many things, isn't very cost efficient to do because you had to go buy some, you know, carbon fiber rod from the hobby store, which was, you know, hard to find and kind of expensive. And we'd later learn the carbon fiber rod would actually wear out fast. So you should get this 316 welding rod. But if you buy the pack of 316 welding rod, you have to buy like a whole container of it for $50 or whatever it was.
Starts getting up there.
I had to buy a very specific boat prop. If you don't have a hobby store that has it around you, you had to, you know, mail it in.
All the little
$6,
RC.
$8 in shipping attached to it. You had to go to wander around all of the stupid pet stores around, like all the Petcos and PetSmarts, because that's the only place that ever carry a hard, rigid line airline tubing. Because I don't even know what it's really used for, like what purpose, and certainly not in a saltwater aquarium. I've never seen this used.
Yeah.
And you had to bring your welding rod and make sure it fit in because they have different diameters inside because it's extruded. And there's just like so many pieces. And before you know, you added up all the shipping and everything. It's like, man, I got like, you know, $200 into this project from all over the place. Yeah. So, and the biggest problem was like centering this rod in the center.
Oh, talk about not getting that right.
Yeah, so just hum if you didn't get it perfect. And so, I don't know. So what I found is I went and talked to a friend of mine. Actually, I didn't even know him at the time. I didn't even know what a CNC was at the time, actually.
Oh, yeah.
I'd never even heard of it. And the local reef club's like, oh, yeah, Spaz's got a CNC. And they kind of described what it was. And like, he could make a cap for this top of this plumbing fitting that would center it perfectly, and nobody would have this problem. The hardest part of this project would be gone.
Yeah.
Make those caps, dude.
Light bulb.
Yeah, it was cool because then he'd go turn it, for me, he would go turn one sheet of acrylic into like $3 grand, you know, for his family. Or his reef tank, I don't know, whatever. And just print out these little things for the rest of us. And we put that together a little kit, and if I remember correctly, they were $25. So you didn't have to go collect all this stuff one by one, buy the whole box of rod,
take the MaxiJet you
drive
had.
all over town, whatever. And we put these little MJmod kits, and that was MJmods.com. And so you could turn your MaxiJet into that thing. And I couldn't believe it, man. And right in the beginning, we were selling like 25 of these things a day out of my basement. And by the end, man, it was like 50.
That's awesome.
You know, I was like, this is really cool. You know, I don't know, it's fun. Then, I was so funny, man. I went to a what do they call it? A MACNA, and I think it was in Houston. It was in Texas somewhere, right? And I saw the guys from Marineland.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm the guy that makes those little kits for the, oh, cool, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And it was so funny, man. I'm like, why are you letting me make this thing? Because you have the motor. All you gotta do is put a prop on the end of it and throw it in the box, and everybody'd be really happy. You'd sell more of these things ever. And he just started laughing. He's like, yeah, I know. but this is a big place, so somebody's got to develop the idea to do it, and then it's got to get like, if it's not the head of some department that came up with the idea on his own, then it's got to get lost and then found, and then lost again, then like pulled out of a drawer. And I'll see this from a movie. You had to go down the stairs. There were no stairs. In the dark room, they had to beware of the leopard.
Just
just
to bring it to
maybe
fruition.
You get that reference point. There are some people out there. But I mean, and he's like, dude, at the end of the day, man, like, we will make this. But by the time we make it, it will be irrelevant.
Yeah.
I think that is the funniest story I've ever heard. And it turned out that way, by the way.
Yeah.
I'll tell you about it later. But then also it was super funny. So I'm standing there. I met Mark from LG Free. LG Free Magnets does the like wooden magnets.
Oh, yeah.
And
hammerheads and whatnot.
he's standing there watching the whole thing. And I can watch like literally the gears turning in his head. Like, I could do this.
Yeah.
If this guy's selling this many of these out of his basement, like, I could make some molds for this and like, just make a mint on these things. I could watch the wheels turn, And I'm like, you know what? We're all, it's a free world. Do what you want. So I go home though. I decide I'm going to make molds for it.
Yeah.
I never made a mold of anything my whole life. And so I pay these guys like 10 grand to make just the impeller mold. And now I'm about to, invest like, all of my tips from the waiter job, and all the money from everything into these molds because this is the future and nobody's making it. And I'm like, fine. And like literally the day before I'm gonna write the check.
Yeah.
LG Free.
Mark comes out
with the like MJmod kit. I don't know what it was called or something else. And I'm like, sweet. And I threw the whole thing in the trash.
You don't have to spend your money anymore.
Yeah, because I was actually bulk resupply at the time. Now.
Yeah.
Bulk resupply is now open. I'm like, I can free my mind from this garbage because I got something else to work on.
Yeah.
And it was like bulk resupply is literally open probably for like 6 months at the time. But I'm like, I got something better to do. Thank God. And then the joke was actually sadly on Mark. I actually like Mark. Sadly on Mark though because Hydor came out like 2 months later.
Oh yeah. With the whole thing.
Yeah, the Hydor Corellia that's now $40. Who's spending $25 to modify a $25 pump in a way that it really isn't made to do?
Or just buy one.
Yeah, when you have a $45 Corellia. Yep. So dude got stuck with like 10,000 of those things.
Oh.
It did me a huge favor.
Oh no.
It's the nicest favor anybody's ever done
You're
for
the
me.
luckiest person I know. Is MJmods.com still a thing?
I think it's
domain
logged.
still there?
I just think it's logged. So it's closed down. We forwarded it to Reef Chili or something at one point in time. But I don't know. So that was kind of interesting though. There's a reason there's a long story there is because the depths at which all of the people were willing to go, myself and all the other people building these kits and modding their MJmods, because we're all realizing the value of flow at this point in time. Like, all right, I still don't want to buy your expensive tune stream, but I relent. This is of value,
Yep.
All right. And Hydors really, man, changed the whole thing, Tunes Nanos are now out. They've changed the pricing. They kind of had
down.
Somebody twisted their arm and made them make it cheaper.
Yeah.
This is what I call the point here is the flow revolution.
Yeah.
Like the renaissance of flow or something like that.
Yeah, it's available.
All right, flow is cheap now, so the debate of how much you need is done. Like once it's affordable, there's no reason to debate whether you need it or not.
Yeah.
And once you find out you do, the debate's over.
Yeah.
So it's over. I think the Tunes team was actually the foundation of that change globally. I mean, they offered that type of flow to everybody in an easy to implement format for anyone, globally. It was the DIY community, however, that really applied the pressure for other competitors to come out. Forced LG Freeze thing, and then later Hydor and many others.
Right.
And so I will tell you then, it was the Italians in Hydor who actually made it easy and affordable. So, it was fun to see the evolution of that as a German leader, the DIY community, and then the Italian leader, coming in and, solving different problems in different ways.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so years later.
After the fact.
Yeah, Hydor has been out for years now.
Yeah.
Years later,
somebody found that file.
MaxiJet found the file behind the leopard door and decides they're going to launch with the kit in there so it can be either one and you can add the prop on it. Now,
a lot of us are familiar
here's
with
the
that
funniest. I don't know, man. I only know the story as told to me from other people. The accuracy of this is suspect. But so, as I know the story, it's Aquarium Systems is making the MaxiJet, which is an Italian company, and has produced this pump that is super duper reliable. It's like always works, doesn't ever fail, and affordable relatively. Anyway. Okay, so now the founding company in the United States who is buying the MaxiJets from Aquarium Systems decides they want this thing in there. But in order to produce this thing, they can't do it at the same cost. So they ship the production of the MaxiJet away from Italy to a new company in China.
For the boat prop?
No, for the whole thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the whole thing, the motor, the whole thing. So this reliable pump that's been out there for decades that has produced an untold amount of money. Yeah, let's take this now irrelevant piece that nobody cares about anymore because there's way better options years later. And now
let's start
make it. But to make it, we actually have to ruin the original product. And they do. They ruin it. And it works now kind of as this thing. Right. And it works kind of as a
other pump.
But one of the primary uses for it is actually driving equipment, like calcium reactors, carbon and GFO reactors. Yep. And now if you have any amount of head pressure on the thing, it hums like a beast, man. It's so loud. So in order to add an irrelevant piece, we shipped it out of the quality factories in Italy, moved it to China, and made it suck for irrelevancy. It was so funny
to be late to the game about 5, 6, 7 years.
Their representative at Magna called it 100%. It was super funny. Anyway.
Can lead a horse to water.
Okay, so years later, MaxiJet, Marillion adapts. All right, so now we're living in a new world, man. It's not 10x, it's 20, 30, 40, 50, 100, 15,000x, as much as you can put in the tank.
Put flow in the tank.
Yeah, it's just like we're just learning, more and more and more.
But do we understand why at this time? Okay, so I put flow in my tank and my corals seem to doing better, but is the biology behind why?
I think some of the biology is out there. Definitely, the marine biologists are out there.
They understand.
But I'll be frank, the marine biologists obviously often get drowned out by the general hobbyists talking with each other, including myself.
Yeah.
There's for every marine biologist, there is 8,000 of us, all rambling, trying to figure out what's happening in our tank.
Yeah.
So here's the problem is you don't really know. But a lot of us are just trying to emulate the ocean, so you're trying to figure out velocity that you see in the reefs and stuff. And do it in an affordable manner, all that kind of stuff. All right, so at the time, wave makers are still popular, but and they're okay, but the problem, even with the DC ones at this point, is they're still on off in 15-second cycles. So if you turn a pump
fixed.
on,
it's not like you can adjust it at this point.
They adjust, they're not what you'd like them to be.
Right.
And even the tunes ones, there's kind of this random thing, but if I remember correctly, 15 or 30 seconds is the max pulse
on-off time you can get, and 30 seconds isn't even that enough.
Yeah, a lot of them are pulse on-off, but various ways. But one of the things though, if you go turn on a pump and really pay attention, you'll see that it takes maybe 5 minutes for it to create the entire actual current in the tank that it's capable of. And it actually takes quite a long time to create any current. because it's a compounding effect of pushing water and it's like getting
Get
the
that
rock
momentum and whatnot.
rolling down the hill.
Yeah.
All right, so I don't know. There's wave makers, but people just haven't really figured out makers. Now this is the timer conversation that you were talking about earlier.
All right. So this is where the timers come in. Like, because I can, if you're only maxing me at 30 seconds, I want to go longer than 30 seconds, and there's no option available. My Christmas tree light timer can get the job done.
Yeah. So my friend David Grigger, I don't know if he came over. In my mind, he's always at my house, but sometimes he's on the forum. I don't remember, so many interactions. So David Grigger saying that, the goal here isn't random. Random is, sounds nice, but it isn't necessarily the most important. It's just varied flow is the important part, so that everything isn't getting blasted the exact same way all day long.
Yeah, sometimes this way, sometimes that way.
Yeah, and if you leave them both on, what happens is the turbulence is right here, and it all happens that way, and all day long, every day.
Yeah.
And so what he would do, and some of you guys have probably heard this 1,000 times, but this is where this comes from, is turn on the right pump. At this time my MaxiJet mod, and I got 2,000 gallons an hour coming out of this thing. And by the way, we measured 2,000 gallons by taking big garbage bags and taking them into a big bathtub, and then turning them on and then see how much the garbage bag fills up. And then we'd measure the gallons coming out of it. I mean, true DIY, right?
Science right there.
We're just trying to do the best we can.
Yeah.
But it's so funny. Actually, went over to Dirk's lab. And Dirk, I don't know, some of you have probably seen Dirk's at the trade show. He sells everything under the sun.
Oh yeah.
But he's got a huge almost dungeon in his basement filled with 8 million tanks at his insurance facility.
Yeah.
And we'd go there because he had big tanks, and we'd fill these big garbage bags up. We're just so nerdy. Anyway, yeah. So the timers, though, what you do is you turn one on for 20 minutes, and for 20 minutes now, all the flow is going this way. And what happens is it creates a gyre around wherever because it has to return. And then what you do is you would turn the other pump, this one off now, and this one on for 20 minutes, and then we create the gyre going the other direction.
Yeah.
The point, we're not calling it gyre, but that is absolutely what's happening, just not in the way that they're talking about it. And then for 20 minutes, you turn both on, right? And so when now they're both on, it creates turbulence, not a current, It creates turbulence in the center and really high flow and really gets everything stirred up for 20 minutes, and then it rests again and goes back. And it turns out you can divide an hour by 20 minutes 3 times, and it was perfect.
There you go.
Yeah. And so I did that, and I just used your average timers.
Yeah.
I think I used a timer on my Reef keeper. I can't remember how I did it, but because there's not actually that many stops on a Christmas timer.
Oh, the little push in, pull out plastic thing?
I might have done it every hour instead. I don't remember. But yeah, you get the rhythm here. Create an actual current in the tank. It's not important to be, I shouldn't say it's not important, but it's not mission critical that it's truly random.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know. That's my opinion anyway. All right, DC options are out now, but they're for the elite. That's the new elite tier, right? So DC options means
adjustable flow.
I don't know if it's truly random, but it ramps up and it ramps down and in a uniform fashion, smooth, and it goes from one to the other. Sometimes they talk to each other, and they do all these fun stuff. It's all the toys in your brand new car. Some of them you use, some of them you don't. But I'm glad they're there.
A lot of them you don't. Yeah.
I don't know. All right, and closed loops are now becoming less popular, and the reason for that is just cost and complexity.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, when I can add 2,000 gallons of flow, or 4,000 gallons of flow with 2 of these, or I could drill the hell out of my tank and get a big giant Reef flow pump that costs 10 times as much.
It's not as popular.
Well, the incentive to do it, it's still being done, and there's still good reason to do it. The incentive to do it is just lower now.
Well, even the form factor of these pumps is enough to so what if I have a cord in my tank and this pump that sticks out about 2-3 inches into the water? It's not taking up my entire display. It's I'd rather do that than drill and plumb and do my whole closed loop thing.
That's true. But they're still uniquely good at one thing.
Yeah.
Flow at the bottom of the tank. So if you want to get flow near the bottom of your tank, closed loops are still uniquely, to this day, good at that one thing. Sea swirls for closed loops are actually pretty popular. You know what sea swirl is? You must. You've seen it.
That's the motor that turns side by side by side. Yeah.
Yeah, so they have like an input and then an output that goes in the tank, and then it swirls. And so like some people actually use these for your returns, back when returns were you're part of your flow system. But yeah, so the sea swirl is like swaying the water around, and this is something I think later on is totally missing in our tanks, is the ability to change where the flow comes from instead of just blasting in the exact same way every day. And as I say it, like I want it myself. Yeah, I don't know. So let's see. They're for closed loops. VorTechs are now becoming pretty popular.
Yes, they will.
I mean, it's undeniable, the technology piece of it, that you're like, magnetic, like it's a magnetic coupling through the glass.
They caught my eye first time I ever saw them, and I knew I had to have them. But I did the Corralias for a while, and then realized that, man, I just really like the technology. I want to, these things talk to each other. I can set it so it goes to night mode every so often. I've got 6 different, flow pattern type deals I can choose from. This is for me.
I'm going to say this actually. This just came to me. This is also an area like, not everybody can ever afford a Porsche in their life.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But this is the Porsche of reefing. And for $400,
that's an
I can have
Porsche.
a taste of the Porsche lifestyle.
Yeah.
Like in this one area of my life, right? I don't know if it's really that, but like it is. Like they're presented as the high end. It's got really cool technology. I mean, I will tell you, at 2004, I haven't really grasped why I would want that technology, other than it's there and it's cool.
Yeah.
Later on, I'd figure out some reasons as to why I really like that, but that go beyond just the fact that it's cool. But the cool factor is real. I don't know. So there you go. So the VorTechs are becoming popular. Battery backups are also becoming a very, very popular thing. It's becoming obvious how many people's tanks crash because of power outages.
Yeah, and loss of flow. And an Airstone's not cutting it.
Yeah, well, even the Airstone thing is pretty not that common. One of the battery backups and stuff on it. And the reality is that Airstone sounds as cool as it sounds. If it's been sitting in your tank for a year, we'll be waiting for the power outage. It's clogged by then.
It won't work.
Yeah, so I don't know. But it's not the battery backups and the VorTechs are like the cutting edge piece. But a lot of people are plugging it into like a UPS.
Yeah.
Like a one for your computer. Jabao on Amazon is a thing. Yeah, Jabo. Is it Jabao? I always call it Jabao.
I've seen it both ways.
It's a cheap DC pump, right? And so these things.
I had several of them.
Yeah, they're they're sold on Amazon predominantly, and there's a couple other places you could buy one. But they're like, it makes you feel like you're getting the technology of the age, DC stuff. And
mine
kind of are.
I did. I had I had 2 MP40s on either side of my 125, but then I got a couple Jabo pumps, and I just wanted flow on the back, and my tank was already flushed up against the wall. I didn't want this too big of a pump. So I found a couple cheapo Jabos and put them in the back facing forward just to add to my flow, and it was cool enough to where it had like a feed mode in there, and it had the little photo sensor that would realize that my lights were off, and it'd kind of tone them down. But I had them, and then I ended up just using all of those on Jabo pumps on like all my frag systems and all my other tanks, because I wasn't going to spend VorTech money on my frag systems and whatnot. So
what was your experience with how long they lasted?
Mine didn't fail.
Yeah.
I didn't have them. I mean, granted, I probably had all my frags before moving up here. I had my systems up for like a year and a half, and then moved up here, got rid of a lot of them. But for that year and a half that I was running them, wasn't an issue.
So that's the hot topic debate. How long will these things last? And nobody buying them thinks they're getting the best thing on the market. Nah. It's just like, I just don't want to get total crap either.
It's affordable enough that if it were to go down, it's not going to kill me to get another one.
At this point in time, like this was maybe, I'm just guessing now. I mean, it was like maybe 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Maybe 3 or 4 years ago. I don't remember.
Oh, this was rattling around in your head?
Well, I don't know. At some point, we're like, you know what? The question's asked: should BRS sell Gyre now? It's been out for a while.
A lot of people using it.
I don't know. That's a cheap option for a new tank. I don't know. And like, so the question is, does Gyre fit BRS's good, better, best strategy? You know, like good, the inexpensive thing that just works, better, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't know, man. This might actually fit the good strategy at some point. It's been sold in this market for a while,
Low price point, lots of people
so we
using
ordered
it.
some,
Yeah.
and like tell, hey, man, we're interested in, distributing these things in the United States, and like, can you send us any samples of these things? Right?
Yeah.
And so Nick gets them. And of the 6 that we got, only 3 worked, right?
Okay.
Out of the box.
Yeah.
DOA was 3 of them. And then when he opened them up, 2 of them were legitimately missing half of the parts on the board.
Oh, no. God.
This is your biggest opportunity in the U.S. And
3 duds out of 6.
they're missing parts in it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Okay, well, if the standard is that's what you send me, what you're sending somebody on Amazon, you must not care at all. I have no idea. So we actually had to move on from that. And so, I don't know, should BRS sell Gyres now? It's still a good cheap option for a tank. I got to tell you, I look at the reviews all the time, and they tend to scrub and disappear. But a lot of times what I see is it looks like, oh, this is 4 stars. But it's kind of like 5 stars, and then, it's actually 20% of them are 0.
Oh, so it's in between.
Kind of like an indication that like 1 in 5 of the people that buy this thing are unhappy. I don't know, this just doesn't meet our standard. I'll probably order them again at some point in time, and we'll have another, test
Try it
internally.
out, yeah. Looking for a DC option that's
I don't know. So currently, no, it just doesn't meet our standard yet. You can buy the things though on Amazon. There's nothing stopping anybody from making them, buy them in the U.S. So we have to have a standard. I want you to know that if you buy from BRS, that it means that we would use it ourselves, and that
we can send it
comfortable selling.
Yeah, exactly. We can send it to you and not have you expect parts to be missing, or 1 out of 3 or 1 out of 6 being DOA.
Yeah, to be honest, there's things even here that I would use personally in some instances that I wouldn't sell to another human being. Because you can make your own value matrix, and I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but the Gyre has made DC pumps affordable at some point in here.
Yeah.
And there we go. Neptune comes out, and Neptune has the Wave.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and so now we have
Stronger.
this pump that's different. It's definitely stronger than most of them out there.
4,000 gallons per hour.
Yeah, it's kind of unique in that it's got all these alarms, so it tells you when it's slowing down. It tells you when it needs maintenance. It tells you when it's probably getting too much current or not enough.
Recognizes when it's out of water.
And not just you pull it out of water to clean it, and it just stops. So some cool things. We're starting to evolve these pumps now. And then all of the pucks come out.
Oh, okay. Little Nero 5s and little kind of guys like that. Okay.
Yeah, and so I don't know. I don't remember who was first on that front.
We did have one of the.
There was
pucks.
a Wave Blue Line company, I think, that was first on it. But
yeah.
A variety of different pumps came out. Now they all kind of look very similar, but they're little pucks that are now flat.
They're really small. Yeah.
I still have a cord in the tank, but the pump itself is very, very minimal. I don't know, but there's a lot of copies of that now.
Yeah, I do. When I first put my hands on the Nero 5, I did like it because it was about as obtrusive in my tank as the wet side of a VorTech pump. Granted, there was a cord, but if the price was good for that, and it didn't have this big brick, DC driver and a wall outlet and all this. It had one single cord. It has one single cord with a little small Bluetooth LE type thing that made it controllable. They just need to make a battery backup for it. But
there's that, and one of the other issues that and the VorTech still strive is if you're not gonna have a cord in the tank, I want it aimable. And that like little puck is aimable to
It's
some
aimable-ish,
degree.
yeah.
But if I want to have a cord in a tank, I want to actually be able to aim the pump where I want the pump to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
That's
don't know.
true.
That's just me. But everybody, you know that when you're looking at it anyway. But there's lots of pucks that come out, and they are low profile. They're much less expensive, and they look nice, and they're doing really, really big flow at the time. Still now. All right, and Seache comes out, and they're trying to crack this market. They're into all kinds of pumps. Like the one thing cool about Seache that a lot of you probably don't know is there's a lot of pumps in our industry that are just like. They're just sourcing some Chinese thing and
sort
put
of
their
me
sticker
too.
on it.
Yeah.
And it's just like, or they're designing a pump from scratch. There's an aquarium company trying to make a pump. Seache is a pump company that makes
Trying to
pumps.
make pump.
Yeah, so
this is their wheelhouse.
just like it's kind of like Kessel, who's like started in fiber optics and now is a lighting company that sells lighting for all kinds of applications. It's a lighting company
They
for a
make
lighting company.
Lights. Now they've just expanded
Yeah.
the reef tanks.
Yeah, like they make them for different applications, And so, anyway, Seache is a pump company, and there's pump engineers that have been doing this forever in Italy.
Yeah.
So I don't know. However, they're missing this one. Seache is trying to crack the market, and they just miss the boat all the way. They make these really cool, high quality AC pumps.
Yep.
Those little teeny extremes. If you've seen them, you'll say that is the smallest powerhead I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, and it pushes water too.
Yeah, there's actually a really wide cone too. So like a lot of people, especially in like a mixed tank, super popular, or filling in flow areas where you don't just want to blast stuff. But they've missed the price market, in my opinion. Like they've tried to make a high-end AC pump. And AC just isn't sexy enough anymore.
Yeah, not anymore.
The $90 plus or $110 or whatever these things cost, it's just missed the price point for what it is. And they did kind of flirt with a DC one. They got a really cool one now, but like, in my opinion, they should have just jumped all the way into the DC. Like you can't own the high end of the low end, and I don't know. It's just kind of a weird pocket that didn't work. But the DC end, I think they have opportunity, especially the super small form factor. Man.
To make that DC,
Yeah. Once we get to solving the cord issue, which we'll talk about later, if you can hide the cord, the ability to aim them and have them that
they
small.
Did have a lot of
really sexy option. But right now, not the most popular, and I think it's just because people don't use it, because the DC one's actually pretty cool.
Well, what about adjustable AC pumps?
Oh yeah, like the
Rossmann.
Akamai, or
Rossmann was one.
I don't know, I've never used it.
Yeah.
So somebody, and this is just total conjecture, so don't go, I shouldn't even say it out loud, but somebody told me that's because it's using AC, that it makes a lot of electrical noise and will mess up your other equipment, your controllers and probes, and I just never got around to trying it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know if that's true. Somebody should go confirm that. Yeah, I don't know. So Rossmann, I don't know. I don't even know how it works, to be honest.
Aquatic, had one too, I think.
Well, it's definitely Rossmann is the one we're talking about.
Yeah.
You can control, it's AC.
AC, but you can control it.
Yeah.
Like you can turn up the flow, turn it up and turn it down to some extent.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe somebody can chime in, and I don't know. But that one never really took off either.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And no, it's not my birthday, Charlie. Thank you. There's a lot of people saying happy birthday, but.
Oh, somebody.
You're a little early. April. Go ahead.
Oh, all right. Yeah, not me either. All right. So, the Hydor drops the entire DC line of pumps.
Is it the Seltzers?
I don't know. No, it was the Hydor Corellia, but they had like a DC controller and a whole series of DC pumps. And if I remember,
they drop them like they don't make them.
They don't make them. So if I remember correctly, the pumps themselves were really inexpensive, and the controller was expensive.
Yeah.
And I don't have a good reason as to why that thing went away. Maybe somebody out there's got an opinion as to why it went away, but I couldn't really get a good answer. It's just like nobody was buying them.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, interesting. Well, I mean, I still use their AC pumps for like salt mixing bids and stuff, but
Well, so I think one of the things is Hydro does really good in big box pet stores.
yeah.
And big box pet stores doesn't
Don't
necessarily
sell that price
high-end
point.
DC
Yeah,
pumps and
yeah,
stuff.
that
So
makes sense.
maybe it looks kind of irrelevant in the matrix. I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know. I'm just guessing. Who knows? But I don't know. I mean, it's too bad because they were really. They cracked the code with the original Hydro. I wish they could have rode that a little bit more.
Yeah, true.
So what else we got here? The Gyre changes the way that we think about flow.
Man,
so
when this hit, that was just a big.
I don't really care about the Gyre because everything does gyre. So
Yeah,
Gyre just means that you send water one way and it comes back the other way.
They all do that.
Circular function.
Yeah.
I can put any pump on the top of the water and do that. Some will do it better than others. But
well, they capitalize on the name because nobody's calling the
yeah.
Gyre flow, but it's also revolutionary type flow though.
laminar flow that goes shoots
sheet.
across the top
Sheet
of
of water.
the tank.
Man, that was such
For
a
the
good
first
idea.
time ever, I can now get water, that's really crossing the top of the tank without blasting everything else. 'Cause
Without
the
sucking the
cone-
vortex also.
Suck it up. Generally, the cone of a normal pump will end up, just blasting everything. This thing is literally shooting a sheet, and it kind of angles down a little bit over time.
Yeah.
But even when it gets blocked, most of the water continues to travel across the top of the tank. And it's like a really valuable type of flow, and you can see it here. We got VorTech on here, but we also have both of the Gyres because this is kind of a shallow tank, and getting water over the top actually helps with the growth a lot.
Yeah, and when we were talking about aquascaping, like a couple of days ago, a few days ago, we told you that we built this aquascape too high, and immediately saw that these corals right behind me were going to have a problem with getting flow way up there.
Yeah, and so we've had Gyres on here for a long time now, just because the combination of the vortex and where we want them, and then the Gyre going across the top actually produce really good luck, or good results rather. But the Gyre really changed the way that we think about flow, because even though I could create some of those flow patterns before, I didn't realize it per se, and it made me go try to create some of those flow patterns using a Gyre. And so one of the things, or other pumps, we actually had an episode or a video called "Does It Gyre?"
Yeah, that's true.
Right?
It investigates.
And so two Tunes pumps or two VorTechs, up near the top will create the same flow pattern.
Back,
and of course it does, because it shoots water across the top. Has to come back.
Has to come back.
Well, it has to come back somewhere, unless it's going to go black hole.
Yeah.
And then the tank will drain. So it's like, but it changes the way that we think about it, and then also provides type of flow that you can't really create with anything else. Sea swirl now. Remember they talked about the sea swirl earlier?
Oh yeah.
What is it used for now?
Somebody commented here too, but okay, so we talked about being able to aim your flow, and there's value in being able to change the angle of your flow. But that doesn't mean I'm going to reach my hand in and adjust the flow every day and change it this way, then change it this way. But now you can mount your little sea swirl on there, and now I can sea swirl my 4,000 gallon per hour pump and have it just move like this across the day.
Yeah, so sea swirl, like we saw it over on Sean's 2,000 gallon tank. And what he did is the sea swirl comes down, instead of pumping water through it, it attaches to his big giant Tuneses.
Yep.
And it just kind of rotates back and forth. He can aim the pump where he wants it.
Solid
and
idea.
then it just kind of rotates and spreads the flow around. And you really can't do that, with anything else.
Yeah.
And so, it's funny because we reached out to after I saw that, I reached out to the sea swirl guy, and he's like, yeah, I can't sell anymore, man. Like I'm not really scaled up for this purpose, I think,
Oh, no.
Yeah, I wanted to start selling them because I saw the value in it,
Yeah.
and he's, I don't know, just not looking to expand the business. I'm just happy with what he's doing. So but you can spin the pump around and aim it to different directions, not put flow through it. So I don't know, but that's what sea swirls are used as for now for power heads, and I'm going to tell you right now, there's a couple of 2 reasons why I really like this. And so if I wasn't able to put the VorTech on the back of my tank and have it effectively provide flow for the whole thing,
right,
I'd use these things for sure, especially with the
Oh,
hood.
you're talking about on your 360.
Yep,
Yeah.
on my own tank.
Yeah.
So the reason I would do it is because then I got no magnets on the outside of the tank, and I got what will effectively look like no cords in the tank, because you can take this like rod that comes down, attaches onto the tunes. The cord will be tightly wrapped up around the tube that goes up, disappears in the water. So you'll have a little pipe attached to this tunes that's spinning around. So you see the pump, but now the pump is away from the glass, and so it looks less obtrusive than it does when it's right on the glass. Because right on the glass, it just obstructs more.
I can't see.
The more I put it in, the little smaller it looks. And so if I had like 4 of these on, in each corner or something to that magnitude, spinning around, I'd have flow like kind of all going all over each other, intersecting with each other at different points and creating totally turbulent, varied flow. Yeah. And I wouldn't have the cords, and the pumps would look, fairly small and unobtrusive.
That's
I don't know. I feel like it's a miss that there aren't more options like that.
They have a 360-degree sea swirl. S. Doyle mentions.
Huh. Yeah. Oh, there we go.
Completely around.
Boom. There you go. Return flow again is now no longer part of the overall flow calculation at all. Because of that, return pumps are now slower, cheaper, and quieter.
Yeah.
So you have 2, 3, 4x if you're really aggressive. They're much smaller. You don't have to have a big old Reef flow or giant walkie pump on this thing.
Right,
anymore.
but I think between 2004 and 15, the conversation is still like 10 times turnover from your return pump.
Yeah, I know. That's like stuck from some other generic thing. Yeah. There's no reason for it. It's
like
stuck
going
from
through
that
your
flow
filtration.
Piece. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's like leftover garbage.
But then we learn where we sit today.
All right. Now we're going to go fast forward to 2020. We know a lot more today than we used to know, and some of this I think was helpful. I learned from watching Dana Riddle's our videos, Magnus talks, talking to people. A lot of stuff like anecdotal stuff I've learned from experience at Worldwide and the team over there, Josh and Victor, and just like our own experiences here. And I understand this better than I did. So now we start to know why the flow is important. In fact, most people will tell you now that getting flow right is more important than getting lighting right, which would have been blasphemy 5 years ago. All right, so this is all about gas exchange, element and fluid transfer.
Yeah.
Okay, so 2020, this is as what we know as of today.
How do you know you have enough flow?
All right, so the importance of the flow is to rid the coral of excess hydrogen and low internal pH. So what happens is the coral is sucking in the bicarbonate from the water, splits off a hydrogen to create carbonate, and now the internal pH of the coral drops.
Because of the hydrogen.
Yeah, but it has that excess hydrogen. Now what happens is it has to pump that thing out to get rid of it. And the water effectively serves as a pumping action to some degree.
It doesn't have this type of process in its.
Yeah, it doesn't have
get rid of in a long distance away from me. Yeah.
And so that process of flow coming over the surface of the water is also what promotes gas exchange and exchange of ions like through its tissue. And so flow is the mechanism as to getting rid of all that excess hydrogen and promoting faster calcification inside of the tissue. All right. Flow is also the primary way to get rid of excess oxidants and the toxic byproducts of photosynthesis. So there's all kinds of byproducts of photosynthesis that build up in the tissue and eventually will become poisonous to the coral.
Yeah, so if it hangs out there because it can't get rid of it because it doesn't have flow, then you'll start seeing like bleaching issues. And
so that's the number one thing when you talk about bleaching actually is what happens is the zooxanthellae is replicating so fast that it's becoming or producing so much nutrients and so much photosynthesis going on, it's become toxic to the coral. And the coral has two choices: die right this second, or expel all of the zooxanthellae and just hope that it can make it afterward. And it usually chooses the second one rather than die right the second. So bleaching is very often, it's getting rid of all the zooxanthellae because the zooxanthellae have become a problem, right? And so that's one of the reasons why you're going to find later flow is really closely related to light. So where you'll find why the reason like lighting is more, or flow is more important than lighting, they're actually they're intertwined. So if I want to have a really high light tank with high energy where there's fast rates of photosynthesis and lots of those byproducts and oxidants being produced, I need to help the coral get rid of them. And so we're learning that those things are really closely tied to each other. We also want to make it easier for the coral to acquire and utilize major, minor, and trace elements. And so, like flow, end of story, is how you get elements into the tissue and how it gets rid of them at the same time. And stagnant water and slow dead spots do that very poorly. End of story. Right?
Even more so for the SPS corals than like your softies and LPS.
I'm not even sure I'd say more so. I just say it's all of them.
It's for all of them. The functions happen in all of them.
There's also a thing called the boundary layer, and this is something I don't feel like I know well enough to speak to it at great length and how you get past it. But there's a layer around any object that when you put water on it, the water actually kind of splits and goes around it. It doesn't actually hit the object.
A little gap there.
And so what you need to do is have enough velocity hitting the actual object that it breaks the boundary layer and allows it to get rid of those gases and actually function, hit the surface. And that's why we talk a lot about velocity and actual currents in the tank rather than chaotic flow or whatever. I can see the things that are moving around, but is it hitting it hard enough to break the boundary layer?
Interesting.
Especially on something that's kind of fixed, like an SPS coral. Sometimes the euphyllias that are moving around, and maybe it's a little.
But if I've only got a 5-second burst or a 10-second burst, the flow's not even enough. One, to get to the other end of the tank, and two, to break the boundary layer.
Yeah. So if you're interested, I'd go watch Dana's video. It's like light. Water,
light, alkalinity,
turbocharging
photosynthesis.
Go watch that when you learn about the boundary layer and you learn why it's velocity. It's not about chaotic flow. It's about hitting it at a certain feet per second, flow feet per second, and that's when you break the boundary layer. All right, so we now know that. So how do you know when you have enough flow for your tank? And there's a really, really good 100% definitive answer that works for everyone.
Your corals will tell you.
Boom, there it is.
Are you ripping tissue off or?
It's not about X turnover, which is garbage. It's about adding enough flow to the point that the corals can't handle it. This is when you know you're covered. So like when the corals visibly show you they don't like the amount of flow that you've applied,
you've gone
dial it back
a little bit too far.
And just a little bit until they don't show that. That's when you have enough.
There you go. That's an easy thing to do.
Yeah, especially with today's adjustable pumps. The most of them allow you to go past the point at where you normally would go. So there you go. All right, I'm going to tell you also right now, brand affinity is total garbage. It's about right tool, right job, and your goals. The best install often incorporates multiple brands.
Which we do here. So we've got our big MP60s and MP40s to get a lot of heavy current going one way or another. Got gyres to get across the top and get that sheet of laminar flow. Mix and match.
Yeah, so like it isn't, I need all Toonses, I need all Gyres, I need all whatever. It's figure out how you want to provide flow, figure out where the dead spots are and solve to those problems.
Yeah.
And like in my tank, I wasn't sure if putting the pumps on the back was going to be adequate. And if it wasn't, I wasn't going to put VorTech on the other end and like one of the best viewing paints, and it has this big pump and cord coming out of it.
Yeah.
What I was going to do is either put those gyres, because they're really high up.
Kind of hide them pretty well.
Yeah. And it wouldn't be as obnoxious. But after I saw I was going at Sean's house, I for sure would have bought a sea swirl and put those on that end to do it. So, it's all about finding, like it's the brand affinity thing, man. Like is the Neptune Wave the best? Is the VorTech the best? Is the Gyre the best? That's all garbage.
It's getting the right flow.
Yeah, figuring out what it is you want and then solve to that.
Yeah, if it's a little MP10 in the corner, then put an MP10 in the corner.
All right, so in that spirit, two pumps opposing each other with varying output is what I would call good. So.
So just constantly on, or maybe they have a schedule where they're constantly changing, but
yeah. So it doesn't matter in that front. Like I assume that you're going to change it to some degree, but really common is put one pump on that end and one pump on that end. They face each other, and I call flow done because I hit my 40x or whatever the number is. And then you on the wave, the team at Neptune tells you a lot that. They don't want to ruin the viewing pane on the side, so part of the benefit of their pump is you can put it on the back and then aim it in, and so they kind of connect in the front the same way. But I now don't have pumps on the side of the glass. Same thing though; it's still just two pumps aimed at each other.
Yeah.
And I'd call good. Good being,
it's worked for a while.
We'll get the job done. Yeah. All right. So in that spirit, what does better look like? Better is find the dead spots and solve it.
This stemmed from like WWC and visiting them, where they had what are those big giant ones? I want to call it
Pantarays or
Pantarays. Big two giant on their 900. The big two giant Pantarays on the side, but Gyres on the tops. Then VorTech on the in the back. So what they were doing was hitting the back and the bottom, hitting the top and the back, and so flow was coming all over the place. And now you're getting rid of all those dead spots.
Well, and you can see Josh just saying look, you can see there's a dead spot there. We'd like to solve it.
Yeah.
Because he's got coral there. Well, is there some reason that coral that lives there doesn't deserve the same degree of health as the other stuff?
No, because what we just said is that if it's not getting enough flow, it's doing all these things, biologically. So
and it will survive. So it's not fair to I'm not trying to shame you.
You're wrong. Yeah, no.
But if you'd like that coral to grow as fast as the other corals, well, it turns out you spent a lot of money on that coral and the ones around it. It might actually be cheaper to add a pump there and have them grow faster than it is to just let them kind of stagnate. And it also is kind of disappointing because what you'll end up having is the places that get really good flow, they'll have these corals that grow from tiny little frags to big old colonies, and then the parts that don't have them, these corals actually just stay really small and they don't really keep up. And so the whole tank isn't really filling in at the same rate. And so if you knew better, most people would go buy the $150 pump or whatever dollar pump you want to buy, solve that problem so the whole thing grows the same. So be it. And best. So good terms of good, better, best. If finding dead spots is better, the best.
Think about your tank.
Yeah, is design the aquascape for flow. Meaning you can get water going across the front, you can get it over the top, you can go over the back. You are designing it for and go through the aquascape. When you're building the aquascape, think, how would somebody get good flow in this thing instead of building a giant obstruction?
Yeah.
Like this thing over here is a giant obstruction.
Yeah, we never considered the flow, the proper flow.
I was not building the aquascape at that period of time in 2005 to fit the flow needs because I didn't understand them as well as I understand them today.
Yeah, exactly.
Now I will build that.
Now the NSA is actually aimed at that purpose.
And the soon-to-be ISA.
The ISAs. But yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know, that's good, better, or best. Good, two really good pumps aimed at each other in some fashion. Better is solve for dead spots wherever they may be in your tank. Don't just accept them. 3, design the whole tank to actually provide flow in an adequate manner.
Well, in that good portion too, it's not just 2 pumps aimed at each other doing random things, random flow. It's like when you came up with the intersecting point of turbulence and changing it, varying it, and things like that.
That's true, yeah. So like one day we were looking at the tank and we realized when you just turn them on, they have that...
they meet in the middle.
They meet in the middle at 100%.
It's massive.
So what happens if this one's on at 80 and that one's on 20? Well, that point of turbulence shifts. And so what if we change that 10%, by the hour or minutes or whatever, and you can shift not only the heavy the flow, but the point of turbulence that like flushes all the garbage off. And so it's not just laminar flow, but right here it's just like chaotic and turbulent wherever those two things meet. And so shifting that around. All right, so alternating currents, break the boundary layer and rather better than short pulses.
We were just getting to that.
Shifting the intersection points.
We were just getting to that, didn't we?
We just, I don't know. Well, it makes sense though. This is kind of built in a way that like coming out of your brain too. So, all right, so battery backups at this point, 2020, some battery backup of some kind. Without it, you're just writing. You can start writing your tank's eulogy right now. You were good to me. I was good to you. It was good to know you. We had the best of times. All that kind of stuff.
We learned this lesson hard, even though we solved for it here on the 160 early on, and then didn't solve for it at all over on the 750.
I mean, we all learn lessons many times. I don't know. Sometimes I'd like to learn them once or from other people. In this case, you can learn it from us if you want. I would suggest that. But it might be a year. It might be 15 years. It might be 6 months. But, how long it's going to be before you have a power outage that affects your tank is tied to how often you have power outages in your area and how long they're out when they do go out.
Normally, yeah.
And your home's electrical. You can roll the dice on this, but why? All right. So I'm going to give you a couple of things to look for if you're in terms of power outages. If you live in California, right now, man, go get a battery backup for God's sake, because you have brown outages all the time, and P&E or G or whatever it is burning down all your forests and constantly turning the power off. Just like a no-brainer, right? If you live in an area that kind of thing is happening, go get a battery backup of some kind, because you're for sure going to run into this issue. If you have power lines, there's a big difference in your neighborhood if the power lines are above the ground or below the ground. So if they're below the ground, the chances of you having a weather-related power outages
far less,
very, very low. Something like would have to hit a transformer or a high-tension power line somewhere. It's really low. However, if you live in an area where all the power lines are above the ground, this is actually pretty common, and an actual truck has to come out there and rebuild the thing when the tree falls on it. Or a car drives into it, or whatever.
And if you're not in a heavily populated area, you're probably very low on the list for coming and get your power restored.
Yeah, so that's the way it works, actually. So when the storm hits and the power goes out, think about where you live, too.
Dense population
How the density. Because what they do is if there's an area with a bunch of apartment buildings in it, they'll get it first, because they're able to turn on the most power for the most people with the least amount of work. So the more rural you get, the least amount of people that they're helping, the lower on the totem pole you get. You could be days instead of hours.
Well, with that consideration, that's kind of like where the Investigates came out of testing these UPSs and seeing if they're viable options. And you test. Like you say, you go into the store and they tell you the heaviest battery backup is the best because it's got the biggest battery and what have you. And we tested a bunch of those UPSs. They last anywhere from like 2 to 5 hours. And then you test like the DC option with the battery backup built for the DC option, and you get 4, maybe upwards of like 81 hours or something. So like if you're in one of those rural areas or those places, that's a big point of consideration.
Yeah, so there's multiple pump manufacturer, powerhead manufacturers are like, Ryan, why don't you use your pumps in something or whatever? And like the first thing on most of them I'll say is, especially like the puck one came out, and they're like, hey man, use that. Like, oh, it looks cool. Oh, what's the battery backup option? And like, well, we don't have one. I'm like, well, never mind. I wouldn't even consider. Like, I know this now. I wouldn't even consider it. It's not a viable product to me if it doesn't have a battery backup, because I've learned enough the times the hard way. I don't need to learn anymore.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like, to me, if you're going to be a legit contender in the saltwater aquarium, powerhead industry, and you haven't figured out how you're going to provide battery backup to gas exchange during power outages,
should be one of your #1 priorities.
You're missing the boat. You don't understand the importance of gas exchange and the inevitability of power outages for a vast majority of people. So it just totally missed the boat. All right, so that is 2020.
That's where we sit today. Now let's talk about the future.
Where would we like to go in 2025?
$1 million ideas.
Yeah, there's all kinds of ideas.
Tim Marks is here too.
Oh, right on. Cool. So here's the thing, man. This is what I'd like to see in 2025.
Yeah.
So hopefully somebody is able to make all of my dreams come true. I don't know.
Here we go.
See. All right, the first one is I can make this one happen for sure. BRS-TV investigates flow, velocity, and flow pattern.
Yeah, I think we're already in the works on this one.
Yeah, so we got this fancy tool here.
Hawk meter.
Like we're got it like a dye solutions working. We got all kinds of stuff. So this is what I think you should expect out of us, and because we sell these products here, we have an obligation to help you understand how they work. Not just so like after you buy them, but so that you know you got the right tool beforehand and you're happy using it and it did what you actually wanted to do.
Yeah.
Right? And then afterward, when you get it, the information on how to use it in a way that makes you happy too.
Yeah, so I mean, we're talking to if you go look at a powerhead, do you know what it's going to do for flow pattern? Is it wide? Is it narrow? Does it, how many gallon? What does the gallon per hour rating actually mean? So those are things we're going to test, and you can actually start to build like, this is good for X. This is good for X. This is good for X.
Yeah, does this pump go 6 feet? What does that mean? Snail's pace, or we provide an actual flow at 6 feet?
Is it wide and slow, or is it fast and narrow?
Yeah, so let's find out the answer to that. The flow pattern, the size of the cone, the laminar flow. Let's find out all the answers so we can give them to you guys, so you can make informed decisions and then use them more intelligently as well. Like, you can place them and get the right. If I want to put a pump right here in the middle, I don't actually need it to be blasting. Like, so maybe something like that little CJ guy, soft and wide would be a really good solution. But let's get that information so you can make that kind of intelligent decision.
That's probably 2021 instead of 2025.
Well, I think starts 2021 and goes on forever.
Yeah.
I don't know, like it's a new game. We did this well in lighting. I mean, we opened the Pandora's box in lighting and showed all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, whenever new lights come out, we know exactly what to do with them. Test them, do whatever.
There's a whole new like set of data on it instead of listening to like I love Radeon, I love AI, I love Kessel, I love Reef Bright. Like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Now I can understand what this light does and then add it to my application if I want. All right. So ideally, also investigates tied to health or growth. Specifically, I would like to see him tied to flow, tied to light. Let's get to the answer of that like belief structure that, let's provide the laminar or like the same amount of flow and then start increasing the light and see if one greatly outdoes the other one.
Interesting.
Yeah, so let's find out actual, like, real life kind of application of knowledge to the intended desires. All right, so we can have. I'll sign up for that. So hopefully we'll be able to deliver on it. 2025, manufacturers should provide more performance data. Velocity at different lengths. Think about it like head pressure.
Yeah, from your return pump.
Yeah, all your return pumps tell you how much flow you're going to get at 1 foot, 2 feet, 3 feet, whatever. I think the manufacturers that take the leap to provide more information on actual flow rates in different environments, kind of like the head pressure thing, will actually reap the rewards and trust of the community. So
I can see the conversation evolving in the flow as to like there are specific names for like pumps with the type of flow that they're providing. So maybe I'm a tunes manufacturer, or maybe I'm tunes and I have, all right, well, here's our line of narrow flow pumps. Here's our line of wide flow pumps, or what have you.
Yeah. I mean, well, why not have that?
Yeah.
Also,
Makes it easier to decide which one I am instead of a sea of different sizes.
well, and that's one of the like the pump should show on it the angle of output. I mean, it should tell you this is a 45-degree angle pump. This is a 180-degree or whatever it is. It should tell you. It should be marketed as the right solution for the right job.
Yep.
You know.
Yep.
So you can use it the right way. And I think that we're going to see more options for flow at the bottom of the tank, aimed upward.
Yeah.
So much of like what we do is put the pumps as high up as humanly possible, so that you don't have all these cords in the tank.
Right.
And then aim them down. There's options like the Tunes Rock and other things like that. They like can bring them all the way down and then aim up too. So I think an evolution of flow would be providing options to do something like that.
Options, yeah.
Yeah, I know. Like I can do that with the VorTech really easy. I don't have these big dangly cords, and I can mount the VorTech right on the bottom of my bare bottom. If you have sand, it isn't.
Yeah.
But what if something like the VorTech could be mounted at the bottom and all of a sudden became a little bit angled, so it wasn't going right across the sand, but shooting upward. Yeah, what if that could happen?
Interesting.
Because it can. I'm pretty certain. We'll talk about that in just a second. All right. And for God's sake, do something about the cords, everybody.
Is this like a $100,000s idea here?
Okay, this is, if you sell pumps that have a cord in the tank, you're selling the Mona Lisa with a cord for the light on it, run right through the tank.
Right across her face.
Yeah.
Like a mustache.
Yeah, like a mustache. Okay, and it doesn't have to be that way. If it didn't, if it had to be that way, I wouldn't talk about it. It's just the world we live in. It doesn't have to be that way. There are ways to hide the cord, and the biggest problem with the cord,
that snake shape.
Yeah, it's like, just so wonky, and there's so many of them, and like if all you did was take a piece of like a C-channel PVC that's black or whatever, and then just put it along the bottom or at the edge of the tank, and that's where the cord went into, I wouldn't care about the pump being in the tank, and I wouldn't care about the cord. The cord isn't part of my conversation ever again.
Yeah.
And the pump, all of these have pumps inside the tank, every one of them. So there's always going to be a pump head. I can't stop that. What I can do is hide the cord in a way that makes it not ugly.
Yeah, make it deliberately longer so I can make this, like, I can have my channel in the back of the tank, but my pump out here, and I need a longer cord for it to go out, up, and over, and out, but make me a longer cord while we're at it too.
I feel like you've deliberately made this thing ugly. Like you've heard it.
Snaky
it's
cord
2020,
inside.
man. People have been complaining about this cord for 2 decades.
Yeah.
It isn't new news, and it isn't hard to solve. Okay, if I'm talking about, if we watch this thing in 2025,
that there's still S cords,
and that nobody has solved the cord problem in the tank, I'm gonna pop a gasket. I don't know, man, because it's so easy to solve. There's so many ways to do it. We're gonna talk about a couple of them, but like something as simple as that channel, especially if, DIY, if you're setting up a tank brand new, now you can do that. You can just silicone your own. But like there's magnet solutions out there. There's all kinds of things that it could be done if you just cared enough to do it. Yeah, so I don't know. Let's care. All right, so what about all-in-one tanks with built-in power heads?
Yeah.
Right. So all-in-one tanks generally have the back, like a one compartment for the sump. What if they had like a little hole there for the powerhead
made for
nozzles
that.
that came out? Not your crappy little return thingy.
No.
But like something like this was sticking out and then globular and kind of like could shoot around, and not only on the top but on the bottom because we don't care about the cords
I
anymore.
think one of the biggest questions, like why maybe not a lot of people don't put like AIO or pumps in the back of AIOs. One of the questions you see all the time is my magnet reef safe? Is the
Real
magnet?
bag answers come with it too.
Yeah. Can I submerge my magnet? Well, solve that issue and come out with a bullet point that says magnet is safe. Magnet is. I don't even have to ask that question because this one says. But
okay,
yeah.
but that wouldn't even. I don't care. That's garbage to me, actually, because you still have the cord coming in.
Well,
right?
yeah,
and you still have
true.
this giant pump and this giant apparatus. You know, the whole thing's
But
there.
I could in an AIO hide the cord in the back chamber that's black anyway.
Yeah.
And just run the cord out the back
Imagine
chamber.
if only the front half of this is sticking out of the AOI, you know, all in one tank.
Yeah.
And now I can just aim it, no cord, no, like very minimal pump, and I can aim them.
Gone.
Now, wouldn't that be nice?
That would be nice.
Yeah, so let's imagine that for 2025. Somebody who does that on your all-in-one tanks will sell all-in-one tanks for sure.
There you go.
All right. So let's imagine the same thing with coast-to-coast overflows with built-in power heads.
Oh, interesting.
So if you're gonna Red Sea has like their Max series has a coast-to-coast overflow. Instead of having giant overflow in the center, or towers or external, whatever.
Well, they even in that back of those Maxes, they do have that kind of coast-to-coast feel. Well, it looks coast-to-coast, but they also have like 2 or 3 C-shape pumps in the back that push water out towards the front. There's like 3 additional pumps that push water out.
Those
to the front.
impeller pumps, though, are just like inefficient. They're not going to provide a level of pump.
Yeah, but you can expand on some ideas like that. Like,
Yeah.
I can have my pump in the back with the same idea, only this much of the pump.
You can do closed loop in there, just less efficient too, right? But also, if you have that kind of environment, I can put flow at the bottom. I can aim it up from the bottom.
Yeah,
I can
there you
do
go.
all kinds of different things. Why not?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it. All right. So, also, the creation of DIY overflow boxes that allow for this. You know, tons and tons of us buy a glass box and put our own overflow in. So why not this?
Do you mean like drill in the bottom of the box to have a hole for my cord, and now I can just hang my pump from right up underneath the overflow?
Yeah, so that was actually another thing is even if you don't put the pumps inside of the overflow, there's not a whole pump, well, at least give me the ability to put the cord through.
Yeah.
Right, so I can move the pump down, you know, or wherever I want to put the pump, the cord can go directly through the plastic and then like out the back.
Yeah.
You know?
And you can use like a uniseal or something to keep it closed off and only, wrapped around the cord, so you don't have to worry about water
Give
getting
me
through.
the ability to do that.
Yeah.
You know, like maybe it's just like a little plastic thing that shoots down, and I can just replace it after I put the cord in. Like there's all kinds of. If you want to do it, it can be done.
Yeah.
You know.
Hide the cords.
Yeah. So let's hide the cords, man. This is a work of beauty. It's not rat's nest of cords. 2025. Let's solve that thing. All right. So. In my opinion, in 2025, all power heads should have adjustable flow patterns. Right, Tool? I shouldn't actually do the thing that you said, which is buy the
Get a whole
wide
line that
one,
does this and a whole line that does that. Make it adjustable for
Yeah,
you.
Hydor did that with Gen 3s. There's like 3 little caps on there, and the end of the cap,
Just comes
some of
with
them
a
are
cap.
wide, some of them are narrow. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can swap them out on your
So
own.
tell me why this one can't have that, or this one can't have that. I don't know about this one. But like, you know, a lot of these pumps could absolutely have change the flow pattern, and
Just
with
by
a
changing the
couple of
end.
dollars, with probably 13 cents in plastic.
You could probably include it for 3 different flow patterns in every box.
Why not?
Yeah. It's so cheap to do.
So somebody who solves that problem and solves also the cord problem, millionaires for sure. All right, so aimable vortex. And I don't know that this can be done, but I want to see somebody try.
Yeah.
Okay, so the VorTech generally just shoots out straight, right? But what if the end of it had a little scoop on it?
Yeah, and it didn't have a scoop on it, but it had like the older like MP40s had a spot that was not gridded for. I think that was an attempt to like stop the vortex from coming out.
That was different.
Yeah.
No, I'm talking about in the
but
output.
It did point it down.
What if it had like a little bit of a scoop on it, and kind of like the Toonses have that scoop on the nano
version.
streams, and the blade actually shoots upward, and then the scoop sends it out forward. So what if I don't know, maybe the vortex just won't work that way, and I'd love to know. Let's find out if it works. Because I think there's a lot of people out there that would like to, put the vortex further to the back and aim them to the front, not have them right in the center, or have them down below and shooting up, and I don't have cords in the tank. It's a great way to put flow on the bottom that goes up, especially if I have sand. Let's find out if there's other options, and you're seeing all these 3D printers out there now. So I mean, this isn't something like you have to wait for Ecotech to get molds made and all kinds of R&D. Like people can print one of these things up pretty quick, snap it on there, and find out how it works.
Yeah, throw it away if it doesn't.
Somebody out there, please let me know. I haven't seen this yet. I think a lot of people would really enjoy it if it worked. Also, this is actually the coolest thing, and I think that the P team over at Ecotech has like a whole new revenue stream they haven't even begun to tap.
Oh yeah.
Because you're seeing all of these people out there that are printing new caps for their vortex. Right. They're printing them to save fish. They're printing them to have
change the flow.
Flow. I want a wider flow. I want a narrower flow. I want all kinds of an enemy safe version. All kinds of different things. I think there's one actually called the NEM Protect.
That is a thing.
Yeah, and so I think Ecotech could have like a whole array, of a half dozen to a dozen different flow models that you could configure your VorTech to a very specific solution.
Yeah. Interesting.
I mean, I don't know. It certainly seems like people are doing it.
Probably one of the cheapest parts of the entire pump to make too.
Yeah. To me, it sounds like a gold mine. I don't know. But and because people love this pump already.
Yes.
But what if that pump was configurable too?
I'd love it
awesome. More. Yeah, it'd be really awesome. All right, so see. You know what I'd like to see out of it, the VorTech as well, is a DIY program. The ability to create, I guess you can kind of do that in Mobius now. But the ability to really create a specific program and recreate it and know exactly how it's going to interact with the sister pumps, the slave pumps and stuff too. And I guess as I think about it, they've definitely come a long way now. I think about the Mobius that you could do that a lot better than you used to be able to.
Adding, shoving different flow modes in the various time slots to kind of create what you want.
So what I'd like to do is actually create what happens for an hour, and then have it just be able to stretch that out over the chunk of the day, whatever portion of the day. So create a very specific flow pattern. Because right now, I'm using the tidal swell.
Yep.
And then you're just kind of looking at this graphic, trying to understand. I think it's doing what I want to do, but also when I look at, the power segments, it's not doing exactly what I want to do. I just want to tell it what I want to do.
Yeah, and only tell it to do it for an hour block. And then now that you have that program, take that and go.
Well, yeah, because I don't want to create. I don't want to
each time
do that for 24 hours. It doesn't even really allow you to do that. It would be so tiny you couldn't do it. It'd be too hard. So I'd love to see that. And actually, I don't want to say that out of just VorTech. I'd like to see that out of any controllable pump that I'm spending that level of money on.
Oh yeah.
I want that kind of controllability.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that's one of the things you see with the Wave and the
Gyre?
No, the Wave when you use the...
Oh, because the Wave has these different... I mean, you can really make some programmable points.
Yeah, it's much easier to make.
There's a limitation for how many you can do, how many points you can do in a single day, but it is a little more configurable.
What's cool too is that they actually, you can share other people's. It's called schemes or something.
Yeah, schemes. They have schemes that you can have somebody do it.
All right.
We actually have a couple out there.
I'd also like less maintenance gyres.
I think I saw a lot of comments when we were talking about gyre pumps about that.
Yeah.
About maintenance on them.
So there's two things. A, they're a pain in the butt to maintenance because there's so many parts. Also, I have broken them when I've been trying to clean them because some of the parts are kind of fragile. They openly have admitted in the past that some of those parts kind of wear out faster than you would like. As soon as we got power monitoring on the Apex, we learned that exactly how fast they slow down.
That's true.
And so it's kind of disappointing. You know, on our end, you know, we had spent like 3 days trying to perfect the flow on this tank, you know, adjusting every last aspect of it. And then to come back in 2 weeks and realize they had lost 30% of the flow
already.
and it's not doing what we wanted it to do anymore. Like, yeah. So I don't know, man. I don't feel like that's an impenetrable barrier. Like you could get past this if you wanted to.
I mean, to upgrade the movable parts.
I'm not an engineer, so I'm not going to tell you how to solve it.
Somebody's going to be able to do it.
Yeah, but like, if you were to tell me it is impossible to make a gyre that doesn't lose power over the course of 2 weeks and doesn't break parts and require a lot more maintenance, I would say that you need a new engineer. Because anything is possible with a big enough hammer.
Yeah.
You know, and that pump sells so many. The hammer, there is enough revenue to support
a hammer
like
big enough.
That big enough hammer, guaranteed. I'd also like to, with the gyre, to see more options for longer pulses, specifically that.
Kind of the same thing we were talking about with the Ecotech, the ability to kind of build your own.
Yeah, kind of build your own. Like we showed them like our approach to shifting turbulence throughout the tank with the gyres. And like somebody said over there that they would actually make it and they just never got around to it. But like they have these pulses, but the pulses are in seconds to minutes. And I haven't actually played with the most recent controller, so it might be different now, to be honest. But I'd like to see that. All right, at this point, every DC pump that wants a legit position on the stage has to have a battery backup available. Some form.
There you go. It's like there's no reason not to.
If you don't have it, you've decided I want to be inferior, but I want to call myself the king.
Not an option.
Nah, I don't know. You can't do it. You can say I provide flow really well, but I can't say I can provide flow really well for the application when I know that this is an inevitable issue that needs to be solved. I don't know. That's my opinion. People other can do whatever they want. I wouldn't do that or set up a tank without that because I just feel like I might as well just write the eulogy now. Yeah. Like it's gonna happen now.
Tank's gonna crash.
Pray every day, I guess. Okay, so I would like to see more options like the Sea Swirl for hoods. So I also guess I'd like to see it a little less DIY. So if we can actually really feature it, like here at BRS and some other places.
Yeah, so you have an option that is made for pumps to clamp onto this. Like I don't need like the Sea Swirl brand is the only brand or is the only thing that does this type of motion in the tank. Like somebody like maybe Tunes has an add-on type accessory that you can made for hoods to swirl back and forth.
Okay. So Tunes for sure should figure out how to do this thing because I've heard in that like higher end market, 40% of reefers out there have a hood on their tank.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So 40% is this is the market you're hitting. Could put this thing in there and get rid of the cords in the tank, have it swirl, and be the only option that like changes around.
No panes of glass obstructed.
Yeah,
by
like really changes how everything interacts with each other. Way better option. Perfect for the Tunes, but also like, and they're a global player. Like they could do it if they wanted to. Yeah. But also like the. Actually, this is ripe for Neptune too. This is a super high-powered pump that could scale, and you could program it to
you could program it to spin like this fast, or do a rotation every so often.
I mean, with something like the Apex, there's infinite options out there as long as you've identified you wanted them. Like, so in this case, what I could do is I could have it as it spins over towards a rock structure. Ramp down, right? And then as it spins away closer to the front of the tank, ramp up, right? Neptune.
You could mirror those images so one's ramping down and up while they're kind of going back and forth like this.
I'd buy that.
Dang.
Yeah, I would, man. I would. Or those little pucks. I mean, I guess I kind of like for something that spins, I like a globular shape, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah,
I don't know. I feel like the Sea Swirl is kind of like a project box. You know, it's not like a totally finished product.
Yeah.
So like
Yeah.
it works. It's been around for decades.
Yeah.
But I'd love to see something a little bit more
Evolve
polished.
that. Yeah.
And I'd love to see, you know, it actually, you know, like the people that sell the pumps should sell the accessories.
Something like that.
Yeah. All right. There we go. I'd like also to see way more options like the Syce Extreme. Small
Little small
form
guy.
factor, but multiples. Not trying to get all 4,000 gallons out of a single pump. Let's get 2,000 out of a bunch of pumps spread out around the tank.
It speaks.
If we solve the cord issue.
Speaks exactly to like lighting, where rather than one big light that does it, we already found that multiple smaller lights.
Okay, well, what you'll find is 2 pumps that are super high power are the easiest solution.
Yeah.
But if you really dive into it, many pumps, so smaller, are covering different areas and eliminating dead spots are very obviously a better
Interesting.
solution.
Yeah.
You know? So I'd love to see that
Yeah.
kind of show up more. Syce Extreme, like, again, like Syce, if you're listening, solve the cord problem and you'll have a like marketable solution that nobody else has solved yet, and it will be distinctly you. All right, throw all the X times turnover in the trash. Let's like stop
game's
talking
over.
about 100 times turnover.
We just gave you the solution.
Let's talk about.
Yeah, I mean, we just gave you. Yeah, that's it. We just gave you the solution to find out if you have enough flow. Look at your corals. They'll
Let's-
tell you when it's too much.
Scale it up, tell they don't like it, and then back it off a little bit. That's
Done.
the right amount.
Done.
Solve the dead spots. If I look in there and I can see that nothing's swirling around there, that's a dead spot. Let's solve it. Especially if the corals aren't growing there.
Then you have enough.
know?
Then you have enough
I mean,
flow.
if the coral's growing perfect, I don't know, so be it. But if you can look at it and say specifically, well, the corals in that area aren't growing like the rest of it, solve that. You know, I mean, if you want to, I guess. So in the same spirit, dead spots matter, eliminate them.
Yeah.
So this is the conversation, some of the solutions and products that I see out there in 2025. Hopefully, we'll come back in 2025. We'll look back at this Black Friday 2025 and say,
all of them are checked.
"Oh man, look at
Fantastic.
all this! So much joy in my life." But I also now want these.
Because that's going to happen.
Yeah, I don't know. So I don't see a whole lot of questions today.
No, there was a lot of conversation going on in there. I was watching.
right.
A lot of people here watching, so thank you for that. A
right,
lot
so-
of well-known names.
Tomorrow
Yeah.
is Thanksgiving, so I am not going to make Dave and Randy come into BRS at Thanksgiving night. So we're going to take a break for tomorrow, but it's Black Friday.
Yeah.
It is definitely time to talk about the history of lighting as we know it.
Ah,
Right?
there you go.
The good, the bad,
That's a good
the
conversation.
ugly, the transformation, everything. I think it would be kind of like the controller one because there's been so much evolution
Yeah.
and so many different takes at it. Some of them great, some of them just terrible. Some of them you look at it and you're like, what were we thinking? Like, I don't know, like it's just didn't make any sense at all. So lighting, 6 o'clock on Black Friday, 6 p.m. Central. You can
History
come
of.
back. The history, 16 years of Reef lighting.
Yep.
Everything that Randy and I have learned over the decade plus, we're going to share with you guys.
What are we going to point them to today?
Today, I don't know, Flo,
Well, you
man.
get all of the histories that we've been talking about right here. Mm-hmm. And
Did you say one, Dave?
Dana Riddle.
Oh, Dana Riddle.
yeah, the Dana Riddle
Dana
talk.
Riddle's Magna
gonna put that up here.
turbocharged
Turbocharger,
photosynthesis
yeah.
right here.
Yep.
And to everybody tomorrow, happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy the whole day,
Yeah.
and we'll see you on Friday.
See you Friday.